when they're not in the euro on services. And they also have probably the best services in Europe is Switzerland. And they spend 36% is all of their GDP that goes on services. They have the best services in Europe. As I said, you can go there, you can eat your dinner off the street practically, everything works. And it is efficient because the local people of that country know where the waste is. They know where money is spent and how it should be spent locally and nationally. And they take an interest in these things. They gem themselves up on it because they are empowered, because they have that power. What do? We shrug our shoulders. What can we do? Nothing we can do. We don't have a say. So we become apathetic, and we have been apathetic, and we all know it's the one thing that is said internationally about us. Why are the Irish so quiet? We're apathetic. We don't have a say. You just give up after a while. I remember Wood Quay. I don't know many people here would remember Wood Quay. 150,000 people marched through the street against what the government were doing in Wood Quay. 250,000 people signed a petition against the government pouring concrete over that site. The EU wrote to them and said this is a site of international importance. The Danes wrote to them and said this is part of our history, please don't do this. People chained themselves, a priest and some notaries chained themselves to bulldozers and heavy machinery. And what did our government do? Ignored everybody and just poured concrete over the site. What does that do to your psyche? What does that do when it happens year after year, day after day? It makes you apathetic and you just give up. Now I go back to the first constitution, 1922. The founding fathers gave the Irish people this power of referendum. And what did the cute hers do? The first government that got in, they were a Fine Gael government. They took it away from the people. Now this was enshrined in the Constitution. The Founding Fathers enshrined this in our Constitution in 1922. The people have the right, if they get 70,000 votes or 75,000 votes, you can call a referendum. Not votes, signatures. You can call a referendum. Now under the Constitution, the government, if they took something out of the Constitution or changed the Constitution in any way, just like today, they had to put it to a referendum to the people within 2 years. Now, Article 50 of the Constitution allowed them to make amendments to the Constitution. Not changes, but amendments. So, the clever people, the government of the day, they amended the 2-year period that they had to put this to the people, that they could take away their voice, their power of referendum. From 2 years, they extended the period from 2 years to 8 years. And they said, we're not taking away your right to have a referendum, we're just putting it off by a few years. At the end of that 8 years, what did they do? They extended it by another 8 years. And then the second constitution came about. We gained a freedom, a second constitution was drawn up, and buried in that constitution was the government retained the right of referendum. Now the government never had the right of referendum to retain in the first place, because we were denied our right to have a referendum on it under the first constitution. So we was robbed, as they say. They stole our voice, and at the time they took it away, 100,000 signatures, just short of 100,000 signatures, was got against what they were doing. And the people were ignored. They said, no, you can have your referendum, but we're putting it off for within the next 8 years. We call it when it suits us. And that's what they've done ever since. They suited themselves. So much so that they will change the law in order to suit themselves. We have these charges coming in, these property charges coming in, and we think we live in a democracy, and we've just been told by the government, we virtually had a referendum, because the majority of people don't want this. Even the people who paid have done so under duress, most of them. So, Noonan said, if we can't get your details, we will criminalise you. These are our elected representatives. The people that we put in power have turned around and told us, if we don't do what we're told, we will criminalise you. I don't believe this is democracy. So, I set up this group 3 years ago to take back, to get into power, to become a political party that goes into power with one objective, one main objective, and that is to give the power of referendum back to the people of Ireland by calling a referendum on that and asking the people, do you want a voice back? Do you want institutions set up, mechanisms set up that will allow you to have a say in your own country, just like the Swiss? And I believe the majority of people would say yes. Most places I go, almost 100% of people, I would say, if not 100%, say, I would like a piece of that. So, this is direct democracy, and if anyone has any questions later about it, I've given you the Reader's Digest version again because we don't have a lot of time. It's a large subject. It can get rather complicated, but it is basically a simple matter of taking back that power. And if people would like to take that power back, please join our group. We have registration forms here that you can fill in tonight and become a member. And we're ready to become a political party now. We have the numbers required to register as a political party. But the more people who sign up for this, the better. Switzerland was never invaded during the Second World War. It has an 800-year history of independence. Now, just to cover that, because it's an interesting question, the Swiss people are very proud, like the Irish, and very independent. And during the Second World War, people think that Switzerland was always rich. It wasn't always rich. It's a bit like the Afghanistan of Europe. It's covered in Alps, in mountains. And it's a hard place to make a living out of big chunks of rock. A few cuckoo clocks, some cheese, chocolate, things like that. But they became the banking centre of the world almost. Certainly play a large role in that area. When, during the Second World War, Hitler, there is a natural valley almost that runs through Switzerland that you could run an army through. And he wanted to use Switzerland as a shortcut to the other countries when he was invading them. And it was a very nice little shortcut. And the Swiss people said, no, you're not coming into our country. He said, look, you can keep your neutrality. I won't invade you. I just want to use you for a shortcut to the other countries. And they said, no, get stuffed. And they said, well, if you don't, Switzerland, by the way, is half the size of Ireland, with twice the population, almost. And they said, no, you're not coming in here. He said, if you don't let me through, I'll invade you. I'm taking over the world, and who are you to stand in my way? And they said, no, do your worst. So a very famous general there took every man over the age of 15 out of the towns and villages and up into the mountains. And he sent a message to Hitler. He said, there are only old men, women and children in the cities, towns and villages. Come in and do your worst. And Hitler took one look and realized it was like Afghanistan. He knew he couldn't do it. A handful of men can destroy an army from the Alps, especially in those days. So he decided to make them his bank. So he put all his loot there. And the Swiss were poor. This guy's taken over the world. They thought, well, we better do business with him. You know, even if he can't invade us, we're going to be a little bit isolated. So he had them in that sense. So he used them as a natural bank. And then the rest of the world looked on and thought, God, this place, if Hitler can't take it over, and he's right on their doorstep, that's a very safe place to put your money. So they became recognized as one of the safest places. And the Swiss have remained independent ever since. They didn't join the EU, because the EU wanted to do something like what Hitler did. They wanted to run a major highway down the length of Switzerland as a shortcut to everywhere else for traffic to go up and down. They said, you're not polluting our country. We have a nice clean country and the price isn't worth it. And they're not in the euro either. They have their own currency. And they still do very nice. Thank you very much. So I believe the road we have to go is the road that our founding fathers took for us in the first place and envisioned for us, where everybody is equal in this country and everybody has the possibility of bringing about change in their community and in their nation. And this is the fairest way. And not to have our so-called elected representative criminalising us and dictating to us like we're idiots. And changing the rules. As Noonan said, if I can't get your details, I'll change the law. It's against the law for them to bypass the, what's called the data protection. He said, we changed the law. So they changed the law to suit themselves when it suits them. And we're treated like slaves or serfs of some sort. They're supposed to be working for us, not the other way around. And it's time that we grew up as a nation and took back that power that was given to us in 1922 by the founding fathers of this state. So thank you very much, and I hope you'll sign up.